Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. My name is Amy Rizzo. I'm the marketing manager here at Kelleher and Holland, and today's webinar focuses on protecting your family's legacy, whether it's planning for you or maybe you're planning for your aging loved ones. Rena Ballard has been practicing law for over 25 years and is part of our elder law, estate planning, and estate and trust administration groups, concentrating on special needs planning, guardianships, and Medicaid planning. Her previous experience as a master's level social services coordinator facilitated her assistance to seniors needing legal services. Now we'll turn it over to Rena to begin our presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rena Ballard, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and view the webinar. I'd like to start just by talking with you about why you should consider this kind of planning. It can be difficult as we get older to plan for the future and make firm plans about what may be on the horizon. But when you do take the time to plan for how you and your family may be affected if long-term care is needed, if and when that time comes, I think most people would agree that they feel a lot less stress and it's easier to make decisions when they've done some planning in advance. When they are actually faced with the prospect of a loved one needing long-term care, if you already have plans in place, you're able to just implement that plan rather than trying to make decisions on the fly when you're feeling in crisis mode. So this kind of plan helps you proactively plan for long-term care. It's not inevitable for everyone, but a substantial number of us will need long-term care. It can help you make decisions in advance on how your life savings will be handled in terms of taking care of the expense of long-term care. And by making these decisions before a crisis is actually confronting you, it helps preserve the quality of your life at the time those decisions have to be implemented. In terms of the current landscape and statistics, people are living longer, which can be a good thing. Thanks to a lot of medical advances, we have a longer life expectancy and generally a much higher quality of life for those additional years we're living. 1 out of every 8 people in the United States is a senior, and that, thanks to all of us baby boomers, that percentage of people in America is growing by the year. So there are a lot of us who are going to be facing these kinds of issues in the very near future. A person turning 65 has a 70% chance of needing long-term care of some sort, whether it's in-home health services, a day program, or a residential facility, whether that's assisted living, memory care, or a nursing home. Many people do not have long-term care insurance. It can be expensive to pay those premiums, and a lot of long-term care insurance companies actually are getting out of that business. So the pool of people who have long-term care insurance to pay for these kinds of costs, that pool of people is shrinking. A lot of people also find that we don't have enough to pay a nursing home privately, but we have too much to qualify for Medicaid. The reason most of us don't have enough to pay a nursing home privately is that the average cost of nursing home care in the United States is about $8,000 per month. Some places it's a little less, some places it can be much more. And when you think about the fact that an average length of stay in a long-term care facility is 2 to 3 years, that $8,000 a month really adds up and can take a big bite out of your life savings. In terms of the consequences of not doing this kind of planning, what this kind of planning can help you avoid is, facing the prospect of extraordinary long-term care costs and not really knowing how it will be paid for. A lot of us who are on the verge of retirement, the prospect of having too much life at the end of your money is kind of frightening, even when you stay healthy. And if you do end up needing long-term care, then the prospect of having too much life at the end of your money is especially concerning, particularly if you have a spouse who's still healthy and living at home and will need the resources, after the first of you passes. The surviving spouse obviously will need resources to continue taking care of themselves to the end of their lives. with this kind of planning, you can plan in advance how your life savings will be used, both to take care of long-term care costs and to take care of a healthy spouse who may still be living at home. I'd like to talk now about what the effect can be when you do this kind of planning. I talked a few moments ago about married couples, and I think that's one situation that can be the most concerning for families, even more so than if the first spouse has passed away and you've got the surviving spouse who needs long-term care. Because when you're married and one of the spouses needs long-term care and the other spouse will be living at home, you've got the dual expenses. The long-term care has to be paid for, and the spouse who's still living at home obviously has to take care of their monthly expenses and maintaining the household at the same time that you're paying perhaps $8,000 a month to a nursing home. So in doing this kind of planning, particularly if you do it in advance, before the decision that long-term care is on your doorstep, you can have the comfort of knowing that your spouse won't lose the house. In most cases, not all, but in most cases, in the vast majority of cases, I would say the spouse is able to keep the house when her husband or his wife, whichever the case may be, needs long-term care. When you do this kind of planning in advance, you'll also know that you've made advanced decisions on how the spouse who's still living at home will meet their monthly expenses, because those don't go away just because a person is in long-term care. You may be able to trim expenses to a certain extent, but basic things, still exist. If you have a mortgage, that doesn't go away. You still have to pay utilities. You still have to pay property taxes, buy food, buy gas for the car. So by doing this planning in advance, you will be thinking in advance about how those expenses will be taken care of. And you won't be trying to make a crisis decision when you're feeling very anxious and alarmed about the fact that your spouse has declined in health enough that they need long-term care. So some of these decisions will be made in advance, which makes implementing the decisions less stressful when the time comes that long-term care may be needed. And then you'll also just have the comfort of knowing that you'll be able to preserve some of your assets, that you won't necessarily be faced with losing your entire IRA or an entire brokerage account in order to fund long-term care. So those three outcomes, knowing that your spouse, should be able to keep their home, knowing that your spouse will have made some plans on how monthly expenses will be cared for, and then being able to preserve part of your assets are three of the things that I think help relieve people's anxieties when they do this planning in advance, and knowing that those decisions have been made in advance.
Thanks everybody for listening today. Please feel free to contact any of our elder law attorneys that are shown on the screen right now if you have additional questions or need some more information. Please note that this is the first of a series of elder law webinars that we will be doing, which will be short features on deeper dives into topics such as Medicaid planning, guardianship, special needs planning, just to name a few. So thank you again for joining us and have a great day.